Hi, everybody. This is Eugene Bradley, founder and CEO of the Silicon Valley Transit Users. Today, we have audio and video of the February 25th, 2022 meeting of La Raza Roundtable. This meeting is supposed to feature VTA CEO and General Manager Carolyn Gonot, VTA Board Chair Chappie Jones, who's the Vice Mayor of San Jose, and VTA Board's Vice Chair Constantine, who is the mayor of Morgan Hill. For those of you not familiar with this group, La Raza Roundtable gathers community leaders, elected officials, and citizens in order to help make issues well more known to the citizens of San Jose, in particular those on the east side of San Jose. Enjoy the video, and while you're at it, make sure to hit like and subscribe below to get yourself informed about more of these great videos that are going to be coming your way on the Silicon Valley Transit Users YouTube channel. Thank you. Have a nice day.
What's going on now, and now that it impacts all of the communities in Santa Clara County. We know that it really takes someone with a special understanding of the community and not themselves to sit in positions like they're in. Let us share the information and take it back to our communities so we understand better why things are happening here in Santa Clara County. Amen. So before we get started, we're just finishing up Black History Month. We just came out of Hispanic Heritage Month. So I just want to sort of do two things. When I got here 21 years ago, and that really is a long time now that I think about it. Even though I'm still seen as somebody new to the county, it doesn't seem that new to me. I want to thank a couple of persons that really gave me the opportunities that I have had here in the African American community. First and foremost, Pastor Moore. Many of you don't know this, but he is my best friend. He married me and my wife. And he's the one that got me probably started down the path of social justice. It wasn't something that came naturally to me, but he took time to educate me. Also, Rick Callender, the current president of the state NAACP and the general manager for the water district. It takes a lot for someone to be able to balance those two things, because all by themselves they're a full-time job. Rick is up and down the state dealing with issues that deal with social justice for all persons. And just recently, he's dealing with an issue in Orange County for the district attorney there that made some remarks that I would not call insensitive. That's what he calls it. I would call them downright racist. And Rick has the fortitude to say that. And at the same time, to lead the water district and doing things to make sure that we are dealing with water, which is really the new oil, I believe. And so, Dick, I think you're lucky to have him as a general manager. And I was lucky to have him as somebody that taught me the ropes. And then somebody that taught me that you can believe in social justice and do it in a calm and understanding way, and get persons to listen to you and hear you. And I've watched his career in politics more than I have really anybody else when it comes to that style. And that's our own Vice Mayor Chappie Jones. As I look at him, it is a style that I have tried to emulate, really. I don't have the gift that Pastor Moore has to, with 4 sentences, energize a whole group. And I don't have the ability to sit and listen and show that ability to listen that the vice mayor has. But I'm trying to learn that, Chappie, still from you. So I appreciate that, and look forward to the next thing that you'll be going to do, because I know that the community needs you still in that vein. And then lastly, Walter Wilson, who has shown me the other side. And Walter has built a fire under me. I'm not quite sure what to do with it yet, but I'm going to learn what to do with it. And then in the Latino community, I just want to be able to say the very first person that I met was Joe Cotto, who had been the superintendent at Eastside prior to me. Went on to the assembly and was such a unique man in that he understood education. And with that foundation, you could go anywhere. Without that, you couldn't go anywhere. And that's why, Bob, I believe that it's important that we always come back to school districts, community colleges, universities, and ask, what are you doing to help our children, our young adults, to make sure that they are successful in the world? And Joe is somebody that took the time to make sure I understood that was our role. And I'll never forget him for that. Esperanza Zendejas, who really gave me an opportunity to see somebody that was the brightest person in the world go to work, but that it always took more than that. And I'm just lucky to have seen somebody that took the opportunity to bring me up here, and I want to thank her. So with that, I also want us not to forget what's going on in Europe. When you think things are going to be peaceful the rest of your life and your children's lives, it only takes one person to start a war. One country. And that's what we have now. And so I listen to persons that are more senior than me sort of tell me that their stories about the wars they've been in and what it means for them, those times in those battles, and what they expect from the youth today over in the Ukraine and in Europe. And so our prayers are with them, and my prayers are with the president to make sure that he knows we're behind him and the decisions he's having to make. So with that, we want to get started, and I'm looking to see which one of you have your teams here. So David, you tell me who I don't see on my screen.
Well, we just have Chappie and Bob.
Okay, so gentlemen, which one of your agencies would like to go first? Because I know you're both waiting for persons. We can bring them on when they get here.
I don't know. Can we arm wrestle or?
No, that's not fair. I'm at a distinct disadvantage, Chappie.
I'll go ahead and get started, and then
okay.
Once other folks hop on,
okay.
I can just pass the baton.
Okay, so let me introduce you, Chappie, if I could.
Okay.
Chappie Jones is the chair of VTA, and right now, I think it's almost every other day we read about VTA. We read about ridership. We read about either you have lots of money or you have no money. We read about your new general manager. We read about the terrible incident that happened in your yard in downtown San Jose. One of the things that we keep getting questions about is a lot of the persons from our communities are riders on both light rail, buses, and the BART system that's going to be there. And they'd like to hear directly from you as the chair, Rich, the vice chair, and the general manager, what really is going on? What are the plans for the future? And now there is the last article that talked about BART through downtown San Jose. That it doesn't sound quite as promising as it did just before the article is off. We're all looking forward to that. And I was on the board of directors when we voted yes, and we were all thrilled. And now those same persons that are going to be writers on there are saying, what's the real story? So we're happy you're here, and we'll get the rest of your members on when they get here. So if you could start, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you for inviting me to speak today. I'll try to cover or tackle a couple of your questions and kind of give you some context, and then, we could take questions from the community. As everyone knows, VTA went through a rough year. Last year was a very trying year. Both we had the shooting as well as a cyber breach and several other issues that severely impacted the organization. We went through a leadership change. So, coming into 2022, it's definitely going to be more challenges ahead of us. VTA has been plagued pre-pandemic with low ridership, low fare box recovery, very high operating costs, some of the highest in the country. In fact, based on a comparison with a lot of our peers, it's the highest in the country in terms of our cost to operate our systems. And there's issues that have come up that have been brought to my attention and the attention of senior leadership about the climate in VTA, working conditions, employee morale, and VTA culture. So, going into this year, I've been tasked as the chair of VTA to provide leadership and direction to move the agency forward. So it's a daunting task. I got to take a deep breath right now just talking about it. But I feel confident that we have the right leadership in place. Carolyn Gonot has come in, and she's walked me through her strategic plan to address elements of VTA in terms of our cost structure, in terms of culture, in terms of operation. So I'm really excited and enthusiastic about what she's bringing to the table in terms of her vision and moving it forward. As far as finances are concerned, there's a spreadsheet that we saw a couple of months ago, and it showed what VTA's revenues and expenses were, and then it showed where we were getting federal support from ARPA. And for the next 2 years, we're in fairly good shape in terms of having those federal funds to kind of sustain us. But after that, after those funds are exhausted, literally there's a fiscal cliff that VTA is going to be facing. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in negative operating income and revenue. And so the perception that there's lots of money, yes, there's lots of money right now because of the federal subsidies, but as far as ongoing and out years, it's the fiscal situation is fairly dire. So we have to, as an organization, take this opportunity where we are being subsidized by the federal government to really put a strategic plan in place in terms of addressing, again, our operating costs, addressing our revenue in terms of fare box recovery. How can we redesign the system? How can we improve the efficiency of the system? How can we change the vehicles? It's a good example. Are we using the right vehicles? Do we have the right strategy in terms of building out our network? To give a specific example, and I know that's a concern to the folks that are going to be watching this, is the East Ridge connection. So there was a promise years ago in Measure B and Measure A to build out a light rail line to East Ridge. We're moving forward with doing that, but there's a big discussion in terms of, is that the right strategy? Light rail is a very expensive mode of transportation. It's expensive to operate. It's expensive to maintain. And I can give you another analogy. On the west side, we're looking at having a connection between the Dearborn Station and De Anza College going down the Stevens Creek corridor. And we're looking at some pretty innovative technologies that will provide high speed, high capacity transit connecting those 2 points. And if we're successful in accomplishing that, imagine how the folks on the east side would feel if we have a Tesla technology on the west side and we have a 1976 Pinto technology on the east side. So we're trying to have that conversation, have that dialogue, and also, really be a partner with the community in terms of having a clear understanding as we move forward with the different technologies and different modes of transportation, whether we're providing our communities with the best solutions possible. There's been some discussion recently about BART Phase 2 and the potential cost overruns. Whenever we have a project, and this is not just VTA, but it's every transportation project in all of the industries in the country, that the estimates are estimates, and they're the best estimates that are made at the time when they put them together based on the cost of materials, cost of labor, and all the other costs associated with the project. Well, all the agencies right now in the country who have projects are seeing major cost escalation based on inflation, shortages of materials, supply chain issues. So it's not just VTA. All the agencies are facing the same issue. And another thing too is when the federal government comes up with their estimates, they come up with what they consider to be the worst case scenario. Not necessarily the best case, not necessarily the most likely case, but the worst case scenario. So there's no guarantee that BART Phase 2 is going to come in at the numbers that the federal government is saying they're going to come in. We don't even know if they're going to come in with, according to VTA's estimates, or maybe a better case scenario. That's something that has to play out. We have to get all the quotes from the bidders and the contractors, and we'll see, when those bids come in and they're, accepted, and we move forward with the project, what the actual numbers are going to be. So right now it's just a theoretical discussion in terms of the cost overruns and the timeline for how long it's going to take. So wanted to cover those points. And again, to say that we have a lot of challenges at VTA, but I'm committed. I know my board members are committed. I know that leadership is committed to addressing those issues. So thank you.
Thank you for that. So let me ask just a few questions based on what you said.
Sure.
I'm going to go back to, I'm going to start at the end, which is the BART Phase 2, the one going through San Jose. And I did have a chance to read a paper put out by the mayor. And it read sort of like I thought it would read, since it's going through his city. Would you say that BTA is going to go ahead and move ahead with the single bore process, or are you going to reevaluate that? It just seemed that what the federal government was saying is it seemed negative, and I didn't quite get from the mayor's response if he was trying to indicate that BTA shouldn't reconsider that or consider the single bore versus dual bore.
No, great question. And you were actually on the board,
Yes.
Bob, when a lot of the whole single bore, twin bore discussion took place. That was a long, arduous process to come to the point where we voted to move forward with a single bore. I find it hard to imagine or envision that we would revisit that whole process. As we know in life, right? Anything's possible, but I'd be very doubtful that we would revisit a twin bore solution. As far as the federal government is concerned, the federal government actually provided us with funding based on the single bore project. So you can maybe look to what they said, or you can follow the money. And if you follow the money, they've committed hundreds of millions of dollars to a single bore solution.
Okay. You indicated that there are conversations taking place both on the East Ridge project and what's going to go towards De Anza. There's a committee I know for community involvement. I forget the name of it, but is that where those conversations are taking place, where community members can provide you with their suggestions, their input about those two projects, or are those separate committees, or how can they become involved?
Yeah, and that's also a great question. I know that we get input from advocates, and we get input from elected officials who represent the areas of the city and in the valley. I would love to get more input and have direct communication with community groups. I call them the real people. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I say that is because oftentimes you can get a different perspective from talking to real folks as opposed to people that are involved in a whole political bubble.
Right.
And so any opportunity that I have, and I know that I can speak for my other colleagues on the board as well as senior staff, any opportunity we have to talk to community members, where they are, to hear their real concerns and get a better understanding of what their needs are, we want to take advantage of. So I'm going to extend the offer to meet with anyone and everyone that you know of that can provide us with that kind of input.
Okay, good. Well, and we'll take you up on that.
It's got to be real people, though.
No, I get that. Two more things.
All right.
In the chat, there was a question with regard to still some concern from staff with regard to safety. Mm-hmm. Can you address what has been going on and what you're going to be doing going forward with regard to keeping staff safe, helping them understand what you're doing to keep them safe, and those kinds of things?
Right, and that question I could tackle on a couple of different levels or areas. One is physical safety. The steps that we're taking to prevent a repeat of what happened, May 26th of last year. And we've taken extensive steps to prevent something like that from happening. I won't go into a lot of the details because, we want to make sure that they're not public. But I can tell you that I visited a VTA facility yesterday and had an opportunity to do a walkthrough and see, the security steps that are now implemented to keep our employees safe. And I can tell you that VTA has done some things, and there are more things that we need to do, but steps have been taken, and we're trying to move forward with that. As far as employee safety in terms of, say, the pandemic and COVID, we've taken several steps in terms of providing protective barriers on the buses, the right protocols for employees that work in our buildings. And there's a whole debate and discussion right now in terms of a vaccine mandate that we're trying to get all of our employees vaccinated and eventually boosted so that, we can have a safe working environment.
Then my last question. Rich has indicated he won't be able to make it tonight. Carolyn hasn't told us one or the other, but
I'll hold it down, Bob.
I know it.
It's coming.
At ASU, a lot of their students lived, within 4 blocks of Arizona State University.
Mm-hmm.
But then they noticed a number of their students started to move further away into Phoenix. And so the city of Phoenix and whatever their rapid transit arm was, and the university and some of the school districts got together and developed this trolley system, and they all contributed towards it.
Mm-hmm.
So that an ASU student from downtown Phoenix could hop on, or anybody else, and go all the way down to keep cars off the road, get students there on a timely basis. Districts in Arizona were able to contribute their busing dollars, their transportation dollars to it. I'm not sure what dollars the city found to put in, but ASU was able to put in some dollars they got from registration and such. Has VTA looked to school districts and to the university to help with offsetting some of the costs? Because they really are providing a service to all of those agencies. And I know that when I've talked to students on the east side, they said if it was easier to get from where they live to Evergreen, it's not the mileage, it's the traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So if a bus was more buses and or to San Jose City College and or to San Jose State, they would do that, as opposed to hopping over everybody and going to De Anza, going to Foothill, which seem to have a direct route to those campuses. So I'm just wondering if VTA has looked at that.
Yeah, I'm not aware of working with or partnering with any of the educational institutions. I am aware of pilots that we've undertaken working with the private sector, corporations, to work out them subsidizing their employees, utilizing VTA. But it would just be a natural extension of what we're trying to do with the private sector to extend that to the public sector. We also have, it's not subsidized by any of the colleges, but we have student discounts, and there's a conversation that's taking place on how we can even provide free bus services to students and other individuals who can't really afford or lower income. So those conversations are also taking place. And that's something that I would love to see, is just, let's provide the students with just free transportation, get them to school.
Does that go down to the to the middle school and high school students?
I don't know if the conversation has gone to that level of detail in terms of what would be the segmentation, but there is a high level conversation in terms of providing free service to students.
Okay.
So the issue is like how do we pay for it? That's the
right. Okay, so let me take a look real quick to see if there's other questions, and then we're gonna.
I know Eugene is itching to ask me a question.
Well, I see his question here. The VTA has paid $100 million in operating subsidies to BART. How the writers, Brian Gonzalez was on the VTA board. And so this seems to be one, I'm going to write this one up and send it to you because it's a bit above my head of interpreting it, but it has to do with something with Ron Gonzalez back in 2003. And so I don't want to hold you to a question that happened that far.
That was a little bit before my time. So
yeah. But it is one about subsidies to BART. And so I want to make sure I want to talk, I'll give Eugene a call and then to make sure I understand it better and send it to you. We do want to invite Carolyn back. We're a very friendly group, and so I know she probably had just something else to do. But we will invite her back next month, and maybe you can bring her back just to introduce her to us.
I would love that.
Okay. But don't go away because I'm going to ask that the same question about partnering with school districts to Bob. He thought he was just going to talk about the recruitment for the new chancellor. But since I have him here, I'm going to ask all. So, gentlemen, I'm going to give you both a chance to sort of last statements. And then I'm going to come back, as I usually do, to Dick, because he always likes to give us words of wisdom before we finish our evening. So I'm going to go first back up to Chappie and see if you have any last statements you'd like to make.
Well, again, first and foremost, thank you for inviting me here to participate in this dialogue, and please have me back. I would love to come back. As far as VTA is concerned, again, there are a lot of people who are focused and dedicated on addressing the issues of VTA, from the fiscal sustainability to the right technology moving forward to improving our operations and efficiencies, and also, just as importantly, improving the culture and climate for our workers. So there's a lot of people that are committed to that change, and I have all the confidence in the world that change is going to happen.
Thank you very much. Bob?
Yeah, Bob, I would just say again, thank you, as Chappie said.
The NAACP course today. Great topics when you talk about transportation, education. Then when it comes to me, you're talking about water. But let's go back to Chappie Jones. We're working on recycling water together. I want to say to the Vice Mayor, he's always been a real gentleman and represents all of us real well. So I appreciate his role. When it comes to education, as you know, we have a country that's been divided. Ignorance will kill you. Education will set you free. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about education, Bob, in the junior college, when I came home from Korea, I was on the GI Bill. So you better believe it. Without the junior college, I would have never been able to advance with more comfort to the next level. I can only say that these kind of meetings are enlightening. I sure appreciate what you all do, Bob. And when you were talking about your mentors, regardless of what you think other people have, you do have it all because you learn from all of them and you become a leader in your own role, and your passion alone can make up for any other differences you may feel that someone else has. So with that, I thank you all. Be safe. As you know, right now, we have some tough challenges, and water is one of them. We need everybody to do their role and conserve water. It's a very important issue. So thank you.
Thank you. And Bob, one of your teachers is in the audience, Andres from Evergreen Valley College. And he just wanted to give you a shout out for a good performance.
Thank you very much.
So with that, all of you have a great, thank you all for a great show. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next month. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.